introduction here.
Welcome to Witty Storytellers online. I present now the president, which is me. Oh, Zaldi is here. And I tell you that we will record this meeting like we record every meeting. And I hope you will not mind we publishing parts at least of the meeting. You are welcome to our Witty Storytellers meeting. We have now been humor and storytelling, personal storytelling specialty club for 2.5 years, more than 2.5 years. And now it is in to have humor and storytelling in every speech. We practice, and every meeting is different than the other. I think we need a timer. Anyone would like to be a timer?
Michelle's waving her lollipops.
Yes, I am just waiting a little bit to see if Zaldi wants to be a timer who doesn't speak. I don't hear you.
I can be a timer.
Yes. So Zaldi will be the timer because Michelle is speaking, even if she has wonderful hearts. And now let me pass the meeting to our Toastmaster of the meeting. I will not say evening, day, or night. Brian Dodd, who will speak all the way from the west coast of Canada.
Thank you, Julie. I was intrigued with the theme of the meeting, guilty pleasures and comfort zones. So let me share with you briefly the result of the search I did with those two titles in there. And as you can see, there's a book out, and the book is Reading Out of My Comfort Zone, 3 Guilty Pleasures by whoever, Nikki, and there's the book. But I thought I had to share that with you because it adds to the story. We will be looking for anybody that that they want to say what their guilty pleasures were. It's a great story, but some of us stay mum and get out of your comfort zone. Many of us here, well, at least 3 of us here, are in the new Imagine Humor path, the 11th path they brought out. One of them is going to speak tonight in level 1 there of that path she's in. So this is a great opportunity and to put humor into storytelling. I always tell everybody, if you want to make a great speech, you have to add a little humor to it, and that sells your audience and relaxes them too. Even if you're giving a mundane presentation about computer software or something like that, it's always good to have a little joke or something in there to relax your audience so they learn better. I don't get to do this all on my own. Our timer is Michelle, and Michelle, what? Oh, you're not the timer anymore? Who's the timer now?
I think it's
Now Zaldi.
Oh, Zaldi's the timer. Zaldi, what are you going to do? How are you going to indicate the times as the speeches go?
Zaldi,
I can't hear you, Zaldi.
I think Zaldi may be having some difficulties with his setup. Trying to play the phone before.
Yeah, at different times he has a piece of software running in the background which will show green, and then it will progress to yellow, and then it will go to red, and at the 30-second mark after your speech, we can start to clap, and that will mean you ran over time. Let's get on with our first story. And our first story is by Carol McCullough. One of the original people that helped us get this here whole online business going. Carol was there. She's speaking from the Strategic Relationships, Project 33, Reflect on Your Path. It's going to be 10 to 12 minutes. She's presenting a speech to share the experiences completing this path, including the progress made, learned, and developed, as well as the celebration of achievement in a style that supports reflecting your path. Carol will explore with the audience how they can reflect on their Toastmaster journey of each of their paths. Carol will introduce a model approach for reflecting on her path. Carol will reflect on the strategies used in the Strategic Relationship Project, learn the team pathways, lead a team pathways. This is a story about the intricacies of building an effective team and what is the process. Over to you, Carol.
Thank you, Toastmaster Brian. That was a long introduction. I appreciate all of that. Now, Toastmasters and guests, when you come to the end of a path, you usually have to make a decision. When you come to the end of a path in Pathways, you have to make a speech. Of course, you need to reflect on the path that you have just completed. That is my aim today. I will share with you some slides, so your screen will change. And I wanted to let you know that throughout my speech today, I will touch on reflections of doing the strategic relationships path, but I will also share with you my ideas on how to be a better reflective practitioner. I have completed 2 paths so far. The first one was effective coaching, and the second one was visionary communication. And my third one, strategic relationships, concludes today with this final speech. Thank you for your clapping in silence there. I appreciate that, because it's quite an achievement to come to the end of a path, as many of you here will know. We each have our own way of sharing. We can put together all the jigsaw pieces in a variety of different patterns. And I know that some of you have already done that. Can you give me a show of hands if you have reached a level 5 in your path already? And whether you have done this speech before. Excellent, quite a few of you here. Thank you for sharing. Today, my speech is all about reflection. And I couldn't resist this little quote. I saw it as being so relevant to us in our paths and in Toastmasters in general. Because we don't just learn from the experience, we learn from reflecting on it. And as I reflect, I really need to feel like I'm being authentic now. Not just following some ritual that the project tells me to do, but to really look deeply into what I did, what I said. Do I remember what I said? How I was evaluated, and how can I help others work through the preparation for this very speech? Reflect on your path. I wanted to give it meaning. I wanted it to be relevant to me and relevant to you so that you can move forward. And recently, a really strong piece of reflection for me came through just by chance. I didn't know that Julie was actually recording my evaluation of her speech the other day. And she shared that with me. And I thought, wow, I'm able to now look back on what my style is when I'm speaking online to you and how it comes across. And that was a very valuable piece of reflection on my part. So thank you, Julie. Are you a reflective practitioner? Do you often think back over your path, or are you rushing to get onto the next part and eager to get that new path and get into the humour, engaging humour path? I know that many people have jumped straight into that one. For me, a reflective practitioner is someone who does take the time to look back and to think about what was done and what changes happened because of that. I think we could do it better as Toastmasters, to be honest. We can use a reflective practice process to make sense of what we've done. So first of all, we need to find out, what was the purpose of the path that we were on? Why are we here? And for me, choosing strategic relationships was very important. Brian mentioned briefly that I'm working with a team called the District 73 Team Pathways. And this project was really the reason why I chose strategic relationships, because I needed to build a relationship with this team of people. We have 10 now in District 73. And our role is to provide support and resources for clubs in District 73 for getting into pathways and feeling confident in pathways and getting over those little hurdles. Because we realise now that many clubs are only just getting into their whole experience. And we needed to provide something concrete, meaningful and relative to them right now as we're approaching the final year and phasing out the old system for the new. So my District 73 Team Pathways was the catalyst for building all of the tasks that I was doing in strategic relationships. And I learned a lot along the way. Some of my learnings I will share with you in a moment about that particular process. But being a reflective practitioner is really what it's all about. So here we are in strategic relationships. Always there is choice. There's, as you see here, a couple of choices we could make. But my learning from the path was really all about consistency and trust. Now, hands up those who have been delving into some of the Facebook groups lately and looking at all the comments about pathways and trying to make sense of what people are on about. I think we need to develop a consistent online presence when we're in those forums. I'm learning still how to do that in a way that is consistent with my reputation, shall we say, as a leader online. And I've been learning how best to do that with my new team of District 73 Team Pathways. For them, I needed a feeling of trust. They need to trust me, that I'm going to be consistent and that I'm going to be committed to the tasks that I have set for us all. And I need to feel that I can trust them to follow through as well. So these are the two biggest pieces of learning for me. Online presence is so important to give consistency and trust. And for this team, we now need to make sure that we're consistent with the direction that District 73 is taking us. We need to make sure that what we're doing is strategic for our club members. So I came up with this reflective practice process that you might enjoy. I haven't developed it from scratch. It's based on the Gibbs reflective practice cycle that's been around for decades. You may know of it. Basically, it builds on a set of steps that you take when you are unpacking experiences. So first of all, describe for yourself what happened. And in the case of a path, who did you involve? What did you do? And what projects were you successful with? Then from your own learning point, think about what was good, not so good, and your feelings as well as those of others. Then with that wonderful evaluation that we always give to each other, I'm expecting a good one today from Julie, I hope, that the feedback will then present for you some challenges along the way, and you unpack those and you think about those and you deal with them. And this is happening over the course of a whole path. So that's 14 projects altogether, 14 speeches. So the next step is to analyse all that, to make sense of your progress. Does it make sense? Did you go along the path that you decided to do in the beginning, or did you change tactics? How did that make you feel? What did you learn from that? And then think about, well, what else could be done? Is there more to this? Is it more than just going through a set of projects that a path is directing you to take? What else is happening? What is transforming inside you? And how could you do it differently? For me, this is the biggest learning that you can take forward into your action plan, because then you'll decide, what are you going to do next? It doesn't really work very well if your reflective practice is just that. You need to go somewhere with it, do something with it, and help transform yourself. I'm getting just a few little bits of audio there. I'm not sure if it's my timer telling me it's time up, but I'll continue. For me, I wanted to share with you today what the impact of my path, and indeed all of the paths that I've been on, how that's impacted on my action plans for the future. Thank you, Zeldy. An audible time would be gratefully received too. So there are two parts to this. So for me, for Toastmasters, those are the two different ways that I have felt impacted by what I've learned over the last 14 months that I've been involved with Pathways. I'm now really sure what I want to do as a Pathways leader. I know that I'm working directly with District 73 and with people in their clubs so that they feel supported in their journeys. And I'm now taking that a step further forward in mentoring specifically for groups within district. I'm also working on building my Distinguished Toastmaster program into fruition. And there I'm focused on strategic directions for online clubs. And of course, the balance of the picture is what I'm doing for me. So being able to carve out those two different parts have been really important for me. Reflective practice can be done through an e-portfolio, but I see my time is up today. So I might have to bring that to you in the next speech that I give you. I'm very keen to share with you your pathway to transformation. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol. And I concur in your speech where you're using some of your skills to bring your family history out. And you and I have discussed that because I do a similar thing for my family. Our second speaker is giving, now I get confusing, I don't know if it's the first or the second speech. Anyways, this is on engaging humor. It just came out last week. A bunch of us jumped on, paid our $20, and got in there to find out what we're doing. I was privileged to evaluate Michelle last night at another meeting of a club she's just transferred to. And it only has 2 digits, 38. Wow, how many people are in a club that only has 2 digits in it? The title of her speech is Trainer by Accident. And I'm fascinated to hear what trainer by accident. How can you become a trainer if it's an accident? She's doing it in 5 to 7 minutes. Take it away, Michelle.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much, Brian. And thank you, Carol, for confirming my approach to this path. I have actually been taking it faster, but also slower at the same time. What a paradox. For example, this is my 3rd time to do this speech, but I'm counting it as the first speech in the evaluation and feedback, because maybe the first one was just more of a dry run. So let me ask you this question. How many of you have been in a situation where everything was totally unexpected and you're not prepared? And then all of a sudden, you realize this is what you want to do. This is where you want to be. Could I have a show of hands? How many have ever been in that situation? Wonderful. So I'm not alone. Let me take you back to many, many, many years ago when I was a university student. I wanted to study to become a lawyer. So I started a course or courses in law. Everything was going smoothly until the then dictator of the Philippines, President Marcos, declared martial law. And with that went my dream of becoming a lawyer. Why? Well, because Marcos correctly was afraid of the challenge that lawyers and law students could pose. So he had them all rounded up. Well, he had everybody whom they could find who was a law student rounded up. Fortunately, my nickname back then was Mike, a boy's name. And even more fortunately, none of my classmates told on me. I suspect that they were more fearful of the wrath of this skinny, long-haired girl with a fiery temper than the wrath of their armed captors. So they preferred to be in there in detention without me. So I was free. Nobody tried to round me up, but still, I had enough common sense to know that law would be a dangerous profession for me during those days. So I switched over to something safe, psychology. And psychology, why not? I was going to study human behavior and find out why humans behaved so inhumanly. That seemed to make sense to a 19-year-old. But there was one problem. I had a very expensive habit. Let me say more of an addiction. I was addicted and I needed money. I needed to feed my addiction. So I needed to take a job, a part-time job as a training assistant, just so I could feed my addiction, because every day I needed to have my fix. Yes, I confess I was an addict even back then. I loved books, and I had to have a book a day. So I worked as a training assistant. And my work was grunge job. I would carry all the heavy materials. I would carry the big overhead projector. It was big and it was heavy. I would set it up. I would prepare everything in the training room. And then I would sit at the back of the room. I didn't have anything to do for the rest of the day until the end of the day, when I had to unpack and take down the big overhead projector and pack up all the manuals. But in between, I could just sit at the back of the room and relax and listen to the trainer. And that's what I did, week after week after week. And everything was fine and easy, and I was able to earn my fix money so I could buy my books. And so I would sit at the back of the room and read and read and read all of this books about psychology, about communication. I was just sitting at the back of the room until one day. It was 8 o'clock. And I knew, because back then we had watches, and I was looking, and the participants were looking, and there was no trainer. And then it was 8:05, and then 8:10, and then 8:15, and the participants were looking, and there was no trainer. So finally I stood up and went to the front of the room and started the program and did an icebreaker and had some activities. And then the trainer was still not there, so I declared a 20-minute break. And the clock seemed to be whizzing by. And it was 20 minutes and 25 and still no trainer. And now I had to stand up again, and I had to actually do a discussion. And I did not for the life of me know what to discuss. But I just opened my mouth, and then all of those books, all the knowledge that I had gained reading about all of these topics just started coming. And I did what James Joyce would call a stream of consciousness. I just started talking like a professor in one of these Radcliffe universities. And the people started participating. We engaged. We had question and answer. And then it was 11 o'clock, and I looked at the back of the room, and I saw the trainer standing there, and I was about to stop, but she said, signaling for me to just go on. And I did. And then at lunchtime, we had a break. And after lunch, I introduced her, and then I sat back at the back of the room. I was done with that adventure, or so I thought. The next day, she called me to her office. And she had this really strange look on her face. And I was wondering, is there anything wrong? Not really. Actually, there's nothing wrong. In fact, there's something very right for you. Your evaluations came out much, much higher than mine. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I was going to become a clinical psychologist. I was going to understand how people behaved in the laboratories. Well, goodbye. From that day on, instead of sitting at the back of the room, I started standing up front. And that was in 1977. And so, what an accident. I am still a trainer up to today. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I won't try to take too much thunder away from your evaluator, but that was an improvement on the first time when you were practicing. Now, I don't have any details here. Maybe the evaluator of Svetlana has the details of her title. I do know that she's speaking from the Innovative Planning path, number 7. Introducing to Toastmasters Mentoring. Present a speech about the time when being a protege share the impact and the importance of avoid reporting on the content of this project. Svetlana, you can tell us your title.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the day, Ryan. The title of my speech is My Mentors. And if you noticed, I changed the background picture from a space where thoughts develop, where that vulnerable inner mess happens, to bridges. Because I thought my mentors are my bridges from that vulnerable inside human that we all are to the outside reality, to the world where we are supposed to get fulfillment as humans, as professionals in various stages. I think a lot of you will concur with me that your parents, for me it was my mom, was my first mentor, my first bridge from the vulnerable mess of nothing, nowhere into this world. She was someone who had this absolutely incredible quality that I observed and realized years later what was special about her. And that was, she was absolutely happy and content with what she had and never ever grieved about what she didn't have. In fact, her life was built in such a way that there was just no space for things that she didn't have. And it must be a joy, an additional joy to know that that kind of happiness was building in her life when I was born. But my mom was very tough. She was a lawyer. She was a prosecutor. And she always played a devil's advocate with me. And all of my idealistic thoughts and projects and, perceptions, she always questioned. She was my Socrates rather than the devil's advocate, I think, over time. And that shaped me into a relentless idealist who is ready to fight for her ideas, prove, find facts, compare with logic and with proof, with evidence that I'm right, that this is how we should do it, because if we do it, the world will be a better place. My second mentor, I think, was very young from the point of view where I am now. She was very young. My first English teacher. I used to go to her place. She lived nearby. And later, when I saw Marilyn Monroe's picture, I thought, well, she looks like my first English mentor, Galina Mikhailovna. She had 2 babies, a husband, and a very nice flat. I used to come to her flat, to her apartment, and I used to write down 10 English words. And then she would come to me, and we would pronounce those 10 English words very attentively, several times. And that was the bridge that opened the world of the English language for me. My third mentor was my English teacher at the university, Olga Adolfovna. She was of German descent, probably evacuated many times from, different places in Russia and ended up in Samarkand. She loved me. All my mentors loved me, and I loved them back. She had this very focused way of speaking, and I learned it from her. She was a very soft speaker, and I learned that. No matter how soft your voice is, they will listen to you if your message is important, if you have the love for your audience, and if you can formulate your thoughts really well. That was what Olga Adolfovna Balter had. I think my third mentor, or my fourth mentor, was my director in the United Nations, where I worked in the International Labour Organization for years. And I think mentors, and I'll again go back to it, first of all, they help us as humans. Again, going back to that vulnerable mess that we have inside and propping us and telling us and making us believe that you're in the right place. So actually what you know and what you do is the most important thing, and you're responsible for carrying it through. I think my mentor in Toastmasters is Julie, and she's here. Again and again, I have this feeling that she was my bridge at so many points. And one of the points is relatively recent, how we passed from legacy program to pathways. That was the bridge. And she was taking me through that bridge, but this time it was a bridge very, very high. It was a glass bridge. And if you looked down, you wouldn't be able to walk. But if you look forward, and maybe sideways as well, and see how beautiful the pathways programs and projects are, then you will succeed. And although I have problems with Basecamp, I don't like it, I absolutely adore pathways, where we combine speakers and communication skills and leadership skills. And there's so many things that help us grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Svetlana. It's always a pleasure just listening to anything that you're telling us. You share your knowledge terrifically, and your mentors did an excellent job in being able to share that with us. Now we come to the part of the meeting. Do I do the evaluations before the table topics? Okay, we do the part of the evaluations then, which is a little bit different than I'm used to. But Julie was evaluating our first speaker, Carol. So Julie, let us know what you thought of Carol's presentation.
Carol, as usual, but perhaps even more, is a master in presenting slides. And she gave us again wonderful slides, from which I would like to steal some of them. They were so interesting and so well made. She has a wonderful voice. So if you didn't see anything of her or presentation, you already are there with her all the time. So if she makes podcast, I think she would be wonderful. And I know what I am speaking because I begin to try to do it. She finished now her fourth path. Wow. And each of them gave her something different, something she used. Not only did it to have one more pass or one more hours, but used in her work, used in her life. Now, what would I say Carol could have done better? So, first of all, gave us from the beginning the wonderful background she has now, instead of just a green background. Secondly, put her computer farther so we can see her hands. Her hands were here at this level instead of being here, and if she just were a little bit farther, we could have seen her hands, yes, like now. But when you spoke, we didn't see. But most important advice for you, the next time, if you can, speak a little bit more of yourself and a little bit less of general. Because we heard a lot about what is reflective, and I understand that is how important it is to reflect. But if you put inside even what you found, an experience, a moment of your life, how you felt, it would have made it even stronger. That said, we heard and learned a lot for what you want to do and what is your plan and what it means, how important is the pathway relative to just giving yet another speech. And yes, we need to show it better in discussions in a forum also. Thank you, Carol.
I must admit, I had to text Julie there in the chat room because I was looking around for the word Samantha on my screen and I couldn't find it. Only to realize that Sam is Samantha. And Sam, you're going to tell us what Michelle did well and where she could pick up and improve on. We'd love to hear that.
Thank you very much. Yes, I have the pleasure of evaluating Michelle today, this morning. It feels like this evening because it's still dark, definitely the morning. And the things that I noticed, I'm going to tell you about what I saw, what I heard, and what I felt. And I've got a takeaway for Michelle as well. And so let's go with what I saw. I saw a really smiley, warm, engaging speaker right in front of me from the start. Great eye contact, which is difficult online. And I really loved Michelle's gestures. Considering it's a small space to operate in, I felt that actually her stagecraft was really good. And her energy was really nice and high and peppy all the way through. So I really appreciate that. I've seen a lot of very dull speakers online. So thanks for that, Michelle. And I know so that she used questioning of the audience, which I felt was a very effective device to get us engaged, getting us to put our hand up. So that's a really nice device. I use that as well. And lovely turns of phrase. I don't want to steal anything away from anyone. I don't know if you have anyone who's making notes of grammarian, but the, skinny girl with a fiery temper, really beautiful phrases and lovely vocal variety, a very interesting person to listen to. I could listen to Michelle for ages. I noticed as well that there was light and shade. Michelle used some very clever devices when she was explaining what happened by speeding up and slowing down. And that was really lovely to have that light and shade in the way that she presented her content. I've got a nugget, a little takeaway for Michelle. And I noticed at the very beginning, Michelle explained to us that she had already delivered the speech a couple of times. And I would have loved it if Michelle could have just dived straight in with her opener, because in Toastmasters we talk about that opening comment, sentence or question being the most powerful part of the speech. So perhaps something to try later is to give a little prepared introduction to whomever will be introducing you so that you can just start immediately with your powerful start. I'd love to see that next time. I really loved overall the phrases, the addiction, the sort of the reveal of needing your fix to read a book a day. I thought that was really clever and funny. I really liked the fact that it was a story and you used phrases like week after week after week. That's a really nice use of repetition in there as well. And back when we had watches, you know, that was just really lovely. We could all relate to that because we're all using our phones nowadays to tell the time. And you built intrigue, you know. She called me into her office. What's going to happen next? So you obviously got these natural storyteller tendencies. Overall, lovely, warm origin story. I really, really enjoyed that, Michelle. And I'm looking forward to see what's coming up next, because if this is where you're starting from on this pathway, albeit maybe not on your speaking journey, it's going to be stellar. Thanks very much.
Just before I introduce our next evaluator, I should mention that Svetlana, I should have mentioned that when I introduced her, is the one of the two founding people that got Witty Storytellers going when she was talking to Julie, and they came up with this idea of this club, and it's a terrific club to belong to. Graham is going to give us Svetlana's evaluation. So from one part of the world down under to another part of the world up above, somewhere in the middle. Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most particularly Svetlana. My mentors are bridges. What a wonderfully evocative phrase to make us see through Svetlana's eyes how she sees her mentors. And this club, Witty Storytellers Online, uses stories, uses those sorts of analogies as part of our training. So well done, Svetlana. I actually thought that was a genuinely delightful way to begin. I also loved the way that you spoke of your mum as your original mentor. You spoke of both of your English teachers and of your Toastmasters mentors and how much you had learned from them. You said at one stage, all your mentors loved you and you loved them in return. And again, that is so obvious from the way that you spoke about those mentors. If I may make some suggestions for the next time you give this presentation, because quite frankly, every time you pass, Introduction to Mentoring is along with the icebreaker, the one speech that you know you're going to give. Don't just say, my mum was my mentor, she taught me to be a relentless idealist, and I did love that phrase. I would suggest, particularly with this club being about storytelling, that you tell a story about your mum that makes that point to us, because that's how we as human beings learn. We learn through stories. We remember facts and figures maybe, but we remember stories wrapped around those facts and figures, and that then reminds us of the message at their heart. So that would be my first suggestion. I would suggest that you try to wrap some actual stories into this. And the other observation that I would make is that you spoke about how much you had learned from your mentors, how valuable those mentors were to you, but you didn't actually say why they were so valuable. You didn't say what specifically you learned from this mentor or from this mentor or from this mentor. Now, I'm not sure how you were going for time. The speech just suddenly basically stopped, but I would love to have seen just in the last 30 seconds. So let me take a look at those mentors that I've talked about. What have I learned from each? Well, from my mum, I learned resilience in the face of hardship. From my first English teacher, I learned that the world was my oyster. I learned from my second mentor that I could be much more than I believed. I learned from my boss at the United Nations that hard work could get, tell us just a brief summary of what you learned from each of those mentors, and I think that this speech would resound, would resonate even more with the audience. But as I say, it's obvious that your mentors all loved you and that you loved all of them, and I can see why. Mr. Toastmaster.
And now we come to what I consider the best part of any Toastmaster meeting, table topics. We get to say whatever we like, but we tell a story every time. Even though it's only 2 minutes, it's a story. So to lead us in that is Zaria. I think I got that right.
Zaria, like Maria, is easy to remember.
Zaria. And take it away and challenge us into our guilty pleasures and our comfort zones.
Welcome. Well, happy Valentine's Day to you all. I hope that you're feeling loved up wherever you are in the world. The Americans are not quite there yet, but today we're going to be adventuring into love in all forms. I've never attended an online club before, so I'm curious to see how you do Toastmasters. I'm very new to Toastmasters. I've only just started, so you might have to guide me a tiny bit as we go through. How do you, when people are volunteering, do you just raise your hands or do I pick people up? Okay, great. So Julie, you had said that some of you are on the Witty Storytellers. So when you volunteer, could you let me know if you're on that so I can pick something that is less emotional and more humorous for those on humorous pathways. So great. So who would like to go first? Table Topics is just this delicious opportunity for us to learn to speak spontaneously about anything. Animesh would like to go. So Animesh, I'm curious to know, has there ever been on Valentine's Day, or not necessarily on Valentine's Day, but a time that somebody that you loved, a partner, created a surprise for you, and how did that go?
Well, first of all, I don't have a partner. Like, you know, I'm not at all in a committed relationship. Come on, I'm not the kind of guy who's go into a committed relationship. But you know, the one time somebody gave me a big surprise was on my birthday. You know, 12 a.m. in the night, my cousin calls me up, says, you know, just come along. We have something for you. You know, we are just outside your we're just outside your hostel at the canteen. This is what happened. One of my cousins called me, so both of my cousins were there, and then he had a cake for my celebration, and he had a few people along with him. Maybe his people from his company, people from his sister's company. So both of them were there. Both sets of people were there, and you know, it was a pretty big party right there in the middle of the canteen, where other people were actually chilling out. It's a night out basically. So in the middle of night outs, it's basically a goddamn party, and I didn't imagine. I couldn't imagine it would be this big, because honestly, it was a surprise for me, because every goddamn time I have my birthday, it's also mid-sems around here in this college. I mean, mid-sem one, it's also the first mid-sem around here in this college. So, you know, it was pretty good. I felt pretty good that it happened. You know, it was a miracle for me. So, you know, that's what is my best gift so far. You know, getting to celebrate my birthday right after a long time, when, you know, birthdays superseded mid-sems. My God. Thanks a lot.
Well done, Animesh. Thank you. I'm delighted that somebody woke you up at midnight to come and get you to celebrate so that you felt special.
Yeah.
Who would like to go next? Okay, Julie. I am curious to hear, what was your most embarrassing love moment? So was there a moment in your life where something happened to do with love that made you blush or made you feel embarrassed in any way?
I begin my woman life very late. I was almost 25. And then I married, had children, and 15 years later, I divorced. My husband was very unfaithful. So finally I was fed up. He told me, Julie, if you divorce me, your life as woman is finished. And I was only 41 years old. So I had to prove myself that he was wrong. And I tried. And I went to a newspaper which was done to meet people in Paris, each other. And there was someone who wrote that he was educated in Harvard and writer, and it seemed interesting to me. And we tried. And then he made me afraid. He told me, Julie, do you realize you are wonderful, but how could have happened to meet someone crazy? And then I realized he was crazy. And my best friend, who was my mentor, also told me, Julie, doesn't matter. You have to learn what is your kilo of sugar. It could be that everything is not nice. Later, he wanted really to meet me, and I had to tell him enough. He came with one rose, which was very nice, but he was still crazy. So I told him, I have children, thank you. I don't want to meet you again.
Thank you, Julie. I'm horrified to think that your husband said that nothing would become of you. Look at you, distinguished Toastmaster through pathways and attending 7 different Toastmasters this week, Toastmaster meetings. You're incredible. He didn't quite see who you are, so I'm glad that you're not with that anymore. So now I would like 2 volunteers. Could we have 2 volunteers? Graham and Sam. Great.
Tiger.
Thank you. So Graham and Sam, are you ready? So Sam and Graham, what I would like you to do is, because it's Valentine's Day and all around the world people are going to do this, I would like to imagine that you're in love and you're going to propose to each other. So I don't know which way around you'd like to do it, but maybe you could just quickly, if I'll allow you to take the space and propose.
I'll begin because it's traditional for the male to begin. Sam, I have to tell you, we are obviously soulmates. The love of science fiction that we share is something that will bring us together. The fact that you don't have a firefly picture behind you does disappoint me, I have to say. Ah, there you go. Oh, you have Captain Shiny Pants. What more can I say? We are, in fact, soulmates and will be soulmates forever. Please, please marry me and do it today.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, Graham, the fact that we share such a strong bond in science fiction and all the smorgasbord that it offers us in terms of humour and emotion and drama, that's so reflective of me and my life. And with you, I can just tell that our visits to Comic Con and memorabilia and collectomania, dressed as our iconic wonderful heroes, will be filled with laughter and joy, and people will be asking us for our autographs because we'll just be so fabulous together. And it would just be the icing on the cake to have a ring on my finger and say, yes, this is not only the person who is in tune with me, but he is the person who is in love with me. And let's face it, in the geek world, that's pretty awesome.
It can be. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody's going to have to pay for our reception. Madam Topics Master.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Mistress.
That's so hilarious. I'm so glad that I picked two people who had a complete love of Comic Con, and that your love will remain in Toastmasters forever. So thank you so much for adventuring with us into that love. I'm just wondering how much time we have left. I'm not too sure how long your table topics is. Zoldi, how long have I got? How many people have I got more for? Maybe you could just show me with your hands how many more people. One more, you think, Graham? I can't see, Zoldi. One more. Okay. So, who else would like to go? Tiger.
I think Tiger.
Tiger,
great.
Tiger, and maybe Nadia. We'd like to hear the pair.
Tiger, I can't hear you. I'm just wondering what your pathway is. Are you on a humorous pathway or a not humorous pathway?
I am actually still doing the old Toastmasters program, and I am doing humorous speaking right now.
You're doing the humorous speaking as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
All right. So, Tiger, what guilty pleasure have you found in love?
Wow. A guilty pleasure I found in love that's not X-rated, I guess, right? My biggest joy about being in love is sitting on a couch, eating popcorn, drinking a glass of red wine, and watching, dare I say, a good chick flick. In other words, a movie that actually has a plot, which in this day and age is kind of difficult to find. We're so into these action movies, and I don't mind a movie with some action. I don't even mind a movie where someone gets killed, but it's nice to have a plot where you actually have to think a little bit, where there's like a good book, like a good theater show, where there's a couple different plots going on. You got to pay attention, a little mystery, a little intrigue. So anyway, that is my idea of a wonderful evening of love: is a couch, a beautiful woman, wine, popcorn, and a good movie.
That's wonderful. I like chick flicks too. I keep asking, what's the next rom-com that has an interesting real story instead of some fake or action? So I can understand that.
And for you British, for Julie, she'll appreciate this. Love Actually. It's a British comedy around the Christmas time. There's 11 different plots going on, love plots. Fantastic.
I love that film too.
I think Julian would like to speak also. Let's let him. So we have no one who came to the meeting who goes out without speaking.
Great. Julian, can you tell me what pathway you're on?
I'm working on the visionary communication. I don't remember the name.
Okay, great. So how has love changed the vision or your life pathway, the vision of what you had in your life?
Wow, it's amazing. If I have know that in this life I will move from a savage living to a civilized, domesticated way to live with a woman, in this case my wife. I think maybe I would like to live it or start since the beginning. The love have changed to me, at least my life, because I have realized that I'm so blessed. I have been so blessed with my wife. I have learned more than our relation. I have learned about me and how to treat her. I have not been the best man, but I'm working every day to be better, to be best man, to be her partner. That's the thing. That's the way I think that the love have changed my life. Sharing my life with somebody I think I love, and I'm discovering many ways to learn how to love her.
That's beautiful, Julian. Thank you. One book recommendation that I have on communicating deeply is called Hold Me Tight by Susan Johnson. And that's a beautiful way of really engaging deeply with her heart. So on your adventures in learning to be with her better, that might be a great book to get.
Thank you.
That concludes our table topics for this morning or this evening, wherever you are. I really appreciate you having me here as a guest. Thanks so much.
Terrific questions, and you know, you managed to work them around with who the person was going to speak by asking what path was, and then you made the question tie in with the path. Terrific. Now I think we want to hear now from Zaldi, all the way from that country where it's never too hot, never too cold. It's always the same. Zaldi.
Okay. For the prepared speakers, we had Carol at 12 minutes and 40 seconds. Her time was, she was allotted 10 to 12 minutes. Michelle went 7 minutes and 20 seconds, while Svetlana went 6 minutes and 20 seconds. For the table topics, Judy went 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Sam went 3 minutes and 22. Graham went 3 minutes and this is our evaluations rather. And Graham went 3:17. So I could see that all three evaluators maximize their time in evaluating. And for table topics, Animesh went 2:25, Judy 2:16, Graham and Sam combined for 2 minutes and 3 seconds, Tiger 1 minute and 42, Julian 1 minute and 20 seconds. Back to you.
Yes, maybe Julie, we can cut out that little piece of the proposal and the acceptance, and maybe it'll go viral on YouTube.
I think my husband might have something to say about that.
My wife was sort of making her rumphing noises from the other room at the time as well.
All right, to give us a summary of how we have done overall as a meeting, and we're going to ask Jean to give us that report with her lovely little plant in the background there.
Oh, hi. I really, really loved your meeting. I learned a few things about online meetings watching you, especially about the you don't have, you make pauses. Your pace of speaking is slower than ours, so I get to listen to you very, very closely and to understand what you say, what you're saying. So I like that very, very much. Also, I liked the creative and funny stories that were made during the table topic speeches. That was very nice for a morning like mine. Here is 9 a.m. So it's a beautiful morning for to start the day with those stories. I also liked the fact that you put the table topics at the end of the meeting, so everyone can go during their days with a smile on their faces. So that's thumbs up. What I also liked, I wrote on my notebook, so okay. I liked that you wrote the messages for the speakers on the chat. This is something we will take from you at our online meetings. What I can say is that maybe for the listeners, every one of us, we should try and taste, I don't know the word. I will search for the word. Okay. I will search for the word. I'm sorry for that. To test, okay. Everyone should maybe test their audio before the meetings. This is a hard thing to do for some of our members too. Why? Because if we are in a room with maybe 2 PCs, boxes, not boxes, audio stuff, with audio stuff. If we are in a room with stuff that is for audio, we create some noises that is bad for online meetings. Well, I hope you understood what I wanted to say. Okay. I really loved your meeting, and I hope I will attend more of them.
We will welcome you
Thank you.
back at any time. One of the things about the online meeting is we do have challenges with different people having different mics, and some people have headphones. Myself, I use a webcam. And the one thing that in the world that I'm waiting for is a computer that will adjust the volume coming from the speakers, because some people are further away from their mics and others are closer. And I'd love to have it automatically adjusted. I have a keyboard that I actually adjusted on the keyboard very quickly. quicker than using the mouse. And at this point of time, we have some club business to do. And our president, Michelle, is, no, who's the president? Julie? We're all in other clubs too, and we're switching around to be president. So at this club, Julie is the president. Julie.
Yes, thank you very much. Michelle was president last year, and Svetlana was president the year before, and Graham is president of the other club. So we have a lot of presidents here. So first of all, I would like to thank all our guests. Zaria, Animesh, Gina, Julian, who comes from another club, and all the others who arrived to us to assist, and some, and Zaria, first time online, I wouldn't believe it. They are so good. And I hope you will join us, or at least come a few other times, and then decide if you want to join our meeting. As you heard, for example, Michelle, who told, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, doesn't matter, but she told the story like I was there. A personal story. I felt like I was in the back of the room. It is no more me. And she changed her profession at the same time. And we had 2 wonderful other speeches also, and great table topics at which Zaria asked questions that we could answer, so we laughed. And we did laugh. We're going in a very good direction. In 2 weeks' time, we have a contest. And I am a chair of the contest with Michelle, chief judge. So I cannot compete. But all of you others can compete. And if you don't want to compete, just remember, it is one more speech. So even if you don't come to win, you can come to give one more speech because you can. And I invite you, because now as I am in the humorous speech path, I want to go and do. And this night I woke up with my idea for my next speech. What I would like to show you, and I'll show you after we close the meeting, is how you can note online the ideas, the stories which come to you, if you are in the humorous path, or from then on later. Svetlana, you are our Vice President of Education. Would you like to add something about the next meetings?
I think our next meeting is club contest, and club contest, has some requirements for the contestants, and if all our club members, I think, are eligible to be part of the contest, it will be up to them if they, for example, win and they want to go to the next level, but nothing should stop them from participating.
Thank you. It is not very easy to hear you. Some problems with your audio.
Can I make a point, Julie? Yeah. Because this is the...
Brian, what do you want to say?
Because this is the international contest, there's a couple of stipulations that you have to have done 6 speeches from the old system or done level 1 and level 2 from the Pathways group in order to enter that. If you win, and then to enter it into the video contest.
Yes, of course. But I believe that most of our members, mostly because we were advanced club before, arrived at that level and a lot more. We have more DTM in our club than many other clubs, and more, not more, 100% are on Pathway. At least gave their icebreakers. But most of them went farther than level 2 in Pathway also, or CC6. So I think with that, I will tell you that I really enjoyed this meeting, and thank you for all the speech and thank you for the guests. But now I would like to hear from the guests their opinion of this meeting. So let's begin with Sam.
Thank you, Julie. Well, it is my very first online meeting, and I wasn't sure what to expect. I've used Zoom before, so I knew how to use the tool, which really helped. I can imagine first-timers for whom the tool is also a new thing, it might be a bit more challenging. But certainly I liked the way it was very simple to move between people. That worked well. I love the chat function at the side. That was really good too. I've really enjoyed the fact that we are all fairly accomplished speakers. Whilst it's lovely to be in the company of new speakers, I like the extra challenge, especially for evaluating someone who's an accomplished speaker. That's a treat for me. So I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Saraya?
Hi, it's Saria here. I find it fascinating because I'm just starting out. I've not attended Toastmasters before I started my own club in our village. So I am like the blind leading the blind. So it's really great to hear other accomplished speakers. There are only 2 or 3 of us in our club who feel confident, so everybody else is quite new to it. So it's really refreshing to have speakers who are confident and able. So I really value being here, and I appreciate you inviting me to be a Table Topics master so that I can play and have fun. So yeah, thanks so much. It's really valuable seeing other people way further along the line and Toastmasters in the pathways. So I can, ultimately be around leaders rather than people who are just wanting me to lead them. Thank you.
Animesh, thank you.
So it's been a long time since I've attended Witty Storytellers online, and today I really felt good, attending one of these meetings. And hearing all these accomplished speakers, and then knowing that I'm already on the path to becoming one of those accomplished soon. So that kind of gives me a feeling like, that kind of makes you feel powerful. So that empowerment that you get, it kind of, I can't describe it. It's just empowerment. That's it.
Thank you. Julian.
Well, first of all, I appreciate the invitation of Michelle to join to this club, or this to gather to this meeting. It's incredible, it's amazing and challenging, at least to me, because this is the middle of the week, and to me it's 1 a.m. and 30, and tomorrow morning we have to work, but I enjoyed. I since the first time I got invited to these kind of meetings, I said, this is the best time I can spend, no matter what time it can be. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, thank you very much. And Gina, I know that you gave already just shortly now.
I